For 40 years, Marita Koch's record has been traveling through history, decade after decade, sitting untouched, to finally be broken by Sydney or Paulino. I am certain that it will be broken by one of these two, but I'm betting more on Sydney accomplishing it first. For the whole of their entire careers, Paulino and Livrone have only raced twice. The first time was in 2023 at the Paris Diamond League.
Working really hard. This is brilliant from Paulino. It looks like Livrone went too quickly. McLaughlin has been reeled in here. She's paid for that aggression. Paulino much more measured, and she comes through in 49.12.
Sydney took a respectable second place, laid back from the 400 in 2024 to focus on the 400 hurdles world record. And her strategy worked out because that year she was crowned Olympic champion in Paris and also smashed her previous world record. The second time they competed was in 2025 at the World Championships final in Tokyo. This time she took the win by clocking the second fastest time in history. Paulino came in second in those finals with a respectable 47.98, which would place her third fastest in history, just behind Koch and Sydney.
Great! It's the second fastest time in history for the hurdle specialist.
However, after the race, Paulino had a few remarks in her post-race interview that somehow rubbed a lot of track fans the wrong way.
It was super exciting, but I feel like a winner. Why? Because I've been competing for 5 consecutive years, every year, doing 10, 15 races, and I feel like a winner. Running isn't just about doing 1 or 2 races a year. It's about being consistently running a lot, because that's what the sport was made for, to compete, not to face off twice a year, whether you do well or badly. It's about competing consecutively.
People found these remarks unnecessary, and they wouldn't shy off from speaking about the interview. Paulino post-race interview is, well, implying Sydney won cause she ran 2 races all year or something, is just as tasteful as best, and at worst, it makes her look like a sore loser. Exactly. I don't know why she felt that she had to go this way in her interview. It just leaves a bad taste in the mouth. I mean, Sydney pushed her to go under 48 seconds, so what's the point? Oh well. On the other hand, Sydney looked at the whole situation positively. She even praised her rival Paulino. I knew there were a lot of people doubting me with making the switch from 400-meter hurdles to the flat 400, but ultimately I had faith in my training. I knew I had it in me. It was just a matter of time. It definitely helped having Marilady Paulino in the outer lane where I could see her, but I still had to get the work done. My coach told me to get out of the blocks as fast as possible, not to stay in it for long. I knew the girls were going to push me, but what mattered was to stay composed. So, with the new season up ahead, there is so much at stake in 2026, and the biggest question right now is, who will finally break the record? Who takes the honor first, Sydney or Paulino? And if it's finally broken, by how much will the increment be? And how long would it be safe before it's rewritten again? When a newcomer raises the bar, they often trigger the paradox of excellence. This occurs when previous high achievers find their past successes are now taken for granted or viewed as mediocre compared to the new standard. In simpler terms, think of pre-Usain Bolt era, runners who clocked 9.8 seconds in the 100, a time that once meant certain gold, were suddenly fighting for bronze when Bolt rose to stardom. Blake became a beast. Gatlin pushed for as long as he could, late into his career until he finally got his win over Bolt, just once. Look at the women's 5,000 meters. Before Beatrice Chebet broke through sub-14 to set a world record, sub-15 was considered elite. When someone raises the bar, everyone else has to either level up their game or get left behind. Athletes have to dig deeper and deeper with an effort to beat the champion. That is why Paulino got challenged. She was the reigning queen of the one-lap event for more than 3 years. Even though she lost to Aid Nasser at times, we all knew that if Paulino gave it her best, no one could stop her. She was invincible until Sydney came through. Before Sydney came into the limelight, Paulino and Salwa Aid Nasser were rulers of the 400. Their competitive nature created some sort of rivalry that spun for more than 3 years. Nasser was the champ in Doha 2019, but she received a 2-year ban for missing drug tests in June 2021. During this period, Paulino was getting better. She was set to take the lead as the next big name in the 400. Once Nasser got back in 2023 after her 2-year ban, a rivalry was born, creating an atmosphere where the two runners spearheaded one of the best era of 400-meter races.
From Nasser yet again.
But this would only last for so long. Sydney was bored breaking her own record over and over in the hurdles. She wanted to step out of her comfort zone and embrace a new challenge. Her official debut in the 400 flat shook things up in the sport, creating the paradox of excellence. In her own words, she stated, "It was a year of stepping outside of the comfort zone and pushing the bounds of what was mentally and physically possible. I hope to continue to do things that push the boundaries in the future, but it has been a long road for Levrone in the 400. She started out in 2014 while she was 15 years old. She would occasionally race a few 400s each year, and she would finally run a 50-second lap in 2018, once in outdoors and 3 times in indoor competitions. In 2023, she raced a total of 5 times in the flat 400 and dropped her personal best multiple times to finally register 48.74. This was the fastest time she had ever recorded in her career, and she wouldn't better that till 2025. Her 2025 season started off in the Grand Slam, where she competed twice and won in both. Respectable times to kick off the season, she would go on to qualify to the Tokyo World Champs after beating everyone through the qualifiers held in Eugene, Oregon. It was in the finals during those championships that she would dip under 49 seconds for the first time in 2 years.
But she's made yet another team in under 49 seconds, 49.
Tokyo was magnificent. She was ready to shine and prove that she meant business being there. It was in Heat 3 of the semifinals where she finally dropped her personal best to 48.29. That mark alone was season best of the 2025 season, and it ensured her a place in the finals. The finals were a statement from Sydney. She was here to take down Koch's record, a 47.78 finish. Considering that she had never dipped under 48 seconds in her career, this was much faster than most people expected to see. The scarcity of sub-48-second performances over the distance just proved how good this race was. Paulino with a lifetime PB of 47.98, the third fastest all time.
Now McLaughlin has elevated herself to position as one of the all-time greats. It's the second fastest time in history for the hurdle specialist.
A lot of people believe Marita Koch's world record was illegitimate. There is evidence that points to large-scale state doping programs in the 80s, but I can't point fingers directly to a specific athlete and say they were tainted. I have previously stated that steroids don't necessarily make an ordinary athlete extraordinary, in the sense that not every amateur athlete who uses steroids can break a world record. That aside, Marita Koch was a phenomenal athlete. She was a lot better in sprints compared to Sydney. If you look at the table showing their best times in the 100 and 200 meters, you'll see that Marita posted better times than her, and that's why I think she reigns supreme in the 400. Koch was built differently. In 1983, she took part in 11 100-meter races, of which she won 5 of them and placed top 3 in the rest. For a 400-meter runner, that made her a huge threat. She had both sprinter speed and stamina. She was what I would consider the perfect 400-meter runner. That same year, 1983, in the 200 meters, she won 8 out of 10 races and came in as second for the rest. At the start of her career, Koch was predominantly a 200-meter runner, and this, I think, gave her an edge over every other athlete in the 400 in terms of speed. Sydney is close to matching that. Even though her short sprints time don't match Marita's excellence, they are still impressive. Sydney's personal best in the 100 is 11.07 seconds, which she set back in 2018 while she was just 17 years old. She hasn't run any faster, but we can argue that's because she's had very few chances to compete in the 100. Her 11.07 was way above the allowable legal wind limit, a positive 3.5 tailwind, which gives a huge advantage. So, as impressive as it was, Sydney hasn't yet managed to run a sub-1100 meter. The 200 is where the real gap between Sydney and Marita is evident. While Sydney clocked 22.07 in 2024, Koch was simply faster. Marita's 21.71 in 1979 was a world record that stood for 9 years before Florence Griffith Joyner finally broke it in 1988. Even today, that time still ranks her 10th on the all-time top list. More than 4 decades later. That's how far ahead Marita Koch was. You might be wondering why considering sprint times is important for an athlete competing in the 400. You have to be fast and still be able to hold your speed for as long as possible. Paulino has slower times in the sprints. In order to understand what it takes for her to match the world record, we have to understand her limits by the time she has posted. She recorded an illegal 11.27 in 2018, after the wind limit was determined to have been slightly above the allowable limit. However, she clocked 11.38 in 2023. Impressive, but still far below Sydney and Koch's range. Her 200 best time is 22:30, which she recorded in May of 2025. Looking at these 3 athletes, we can see the margin in their sprint times reflect the times they post in the 400. The greater the athlete's top speed, the better they are in the 400. So where does all of this leave us? The 2026 calendar is packed and thrilling. especially with the World Ultimate Championships gracing track and field right after the Diamond League season. This new event with a $10 million prize pool will feature the best of the best, and may just be the biggest opportunity for athletes to chase first place and set new records. Sydney forced Paulino to evolve. Nasser kept the standards alive while Paulino pushed for dominance. And now, the entire field is different because of them. Whether the record goes or not, this season will leave better marks than what we had in 2025. I think there will be multiple sub-48-second races. Probably Nasser will also dip under 48 seconds. And if anyone is at a better position to run more laps in under 48 seconds, that's obviously Sydney. This is the cost of chasing Sydney. It means everyone else now has to level up, big time, if they want to win the race.